Hi everybody, sitting here at the hotel tonight up in Knoxville, Tennessee. Thought it'd be a good time to talk about the Daikin One thermostat. This is the thermostat we use with all of the inverter products and communicating systems that Daikin has out. It's replacing the thermostat that we've used for a long time called the CTKL4 that was made for us by the Honeywell Corporation with all the Daikin programming in it. It was a part of our ComfortNet protocol. So this is the thermostat here, the Daikin One. Now the Daikin One thermostat is evolving. This is the first generation thermostat. The second one is going to be just a little bit different. They're eliminating the gray side of the thermostat this here. They're going to eliminate the wheel. So you're just going to have a touch screen, thermostat like this. So this is going to be coming out here in a couple months. It's going to be released sometime about the first of the year. They're going to have this thermostat branded in Daikin and also Amana. So it's going to be kind of a neat thermostat to have, being all touchscreen, eliminating the wheel, because the wheel really doesn't do what we want it to do. So it's gone. It's going to get rid of it and have it go away. So what I want to do is look at using this control. How do we start up and commission an inverter system? So I've got a demonstrator model where we've built the boards, everything all in a box. I've got a completely working model of an inverter system that we'll be able to walk through, show you how the thermostat's going to connect up to all of the two boards and set itself up, and then some of the settings that I find that have worked very well for us here in the Southeast for proper duct pressurization as well as humidity control. So we'll talk about all of those little things as we walk through setting up this particular thermostat to be able to work with the the inverter system. So let's get to it. Now this is the layout that I have on this demonstrator model that we've got built over here in this corner here, where you got the indoor variable speed heat pump board. This here is going to be our main outdoor unit inverter board. The inverter board's taking AC power, converts it to raw DC power, runs it through rectifiers that turn it into square wave, and then we're running it through diodes that are converting it. We're simulating our own three-phase field to be able to power the compressor. But this is just a layout here of the board. The little blue box here is a ECM motor simulator. Now what I've done, I've got 120 volts powering this box. So I'm bringing 120 volts into a 40 VA transformer. 120 primary, secondary is 24 volts. And then I'm running it over to a 240 volt 40 VA transformer. So 24 volts off the 110 or 120 transformer over to 24 volts on the 240, and what comes out of it is about 226 volts at about 5 or 6 amps. That's about all the power that I can get out of it. Now some of the things we've done here, I've also added in some resistors to simulate certain temperatures, simulating like a thermistor inside the system. We've added some LEDs in here to be able to turn this thing on and be able to light it up so you can see it as you're working on it. I'm in the process of adding all of the pressure transducers, having a complete working model here with EEV valves, the whole 9 yards. But I've got my COM plug here to simulate all of the the things inside the board as far as voltage I need to be able to test and make sure that I've got a good stable COM bus in the system. Alright, well let's look at the process of going through it and setting up and commissioning this unit. Now after the thermostat boots up, it started talking to both of the boards. So it's learning what the boards are, either heat pump, air conditioner. It's made all of the proper selections here. So now I get to select what language I want. And I want to make sure that use large fonts is selected. In this case it is, to give you an idea of what it looks like. Those are small fonts. For us with, fat fingers, that's kind of hard to be able to hit that. And also if you have eyes like mine, I'm about 60 years old now, so it's a little bit hard for me to see the small letters. So use large fonts works very well. I can hit continue. Now, anytime you see the word unitary right here, that means ducted residential equipment. So I want to make sure that's selected. Then I hit continue down here at the bottom. Now it's asking me begin setup options, or learn more. If I wanted to learn a little bit more about the thermostat, I can hit that there. But to get into and start the setup procedure so we can commission this unit, I hit begin setup. Now, it's given us 5 options here: communication, personalization, equipment setup, system optimization, and preferences. So I just start at 1 and I work through the list. So communications, when I hit this, it's going to say, if I wanted to change it from unitary, because this thermostat will work with some of the Daikin single zone and multi-zone mini splits. It can also work with some of the VRV equipment. So in this case, we're just going to do unitary. So we got unitary there. Continue. Okay, now we've got unitary selected, so let's back up here. Now it says Wi-Fi disconnected. And now if I need to do at least one update with this thermostat. If I choose not to leave it connected to a Wi-Fi network, that's fine, but I do need to do at least one update. If you leave it connected to the Wi-Fi network, every so often Daikin will send out an update. It updates the thermostat overnight. Thermostat reboots, and then it goes right back into normal operation. But to connect it up to the Wi-Fi, I can hit this, and now I can say, it says networks disconnected. So I hit that and I can search and see what Wi-Fi connections are available to me. Now I'm at the Hampton Inn here in Knoxville, so their router that I can log into is the Hilton's Honors. I can accept the terms. Now I'll probably have to enter the password. See, it says internet connected. Now it's searching for the Daikin cloud. And sometimes this might take a couple minutes. Now if it does hang up, that could be that there's several people trying to get onto the Daikin cloud all at one time. So I don't get too hung up on if it doesn't find it, initially, because I can come back to it and it'll probably have gotten into it. So I select, use Wi-Fi. I select my router. In a lot of cases, it's going to ask me to log into the router by entering the password. And then if it has an update available, you'll see a little scrolling bar down here across the bottom. And that's where it's receiving its mandatory update from. Now, if you don't have Wi-Fi on the house, you can turn your phone, if you have a smartphone, into a hotspot and be able to do that there. If there's no cell service or Wi-Fi at the job site where you're at, maybe out in a rural area or something, at your office, if you've got Wi-Fi at the office, just connect 24 volts up to the sub base of your thermostat, and then power up the thermostat and do the update at your office. It doesn't have to talk to the equipment to be able to do this update. So I'm going to back out of this for right now. So we'll go back. We can come down here and hit next step. Now it's taking us to the second option, personalization. Here I can again change my language, select the use large fonts or not. I can change my date and time. If I want to, I can come in here and name this thermostat. Here's some of them. Maybe it's on a zone system, or they've got two separate units on the house. So if they're using the Wi-Fi app to be able to control the system, they'll be able to see which one it is by, just selecting in a name for it. Now, I can come down here. I can change it from Fahrenheit to Celsius if that's what you want. I hit next step. Now, it's already found the outdoor board and the indoor board. With a heat pump, it only finds 2 units. If it is a gas system, a split gas, it's going to be looking for 3 units. Outdoor board, indoor board, and a EEV valve coil. So in this case, we just got a heat pump. I've got a DZ18VC, and that stands for Daikin. The Z stands for heat pump. It's an 18 SEER. The V stands for variable speed. C stands for communicating, and this particular board is for a 48,000 BTU unit, so a 4-ton. Now the DV is our Daikin variable speed air handler. It's a 59 PEC. The P stands for painted cabinet. The E is for electronic expansion valve, and there again, C stands for communications. So let's select our heat pump, see what options we have. Now I've got specifications here. I can hit this, and it's going to give me some information, my model number, serial number, the software revision that's running on the machine. It's a 4-ton. The number of stages of heat is variable. This is a true variable speed compressor in this machine. All of the Daikin inverters use a Daikin swing bearing compressor. On the 20 SEER, we do incorporate on a 5-ton a Daikin scroll. Compressors made by Daikin. So let's back up out of specifications. One of the things I like to do is go to cool settings. Cool air flow trim. Now in the low range, I'll plus up my CFM. I give it a boost in the low range of compressor operation, either 5 to 6%. That does a better job of pressurizing my duct system when I'm at a low compressor output. And it also will change the temperature of my evaporator coil. Since I'm running a higher amount of air across the coil, my coil runs 1 to 2 degrees warmer. So that'll extend out a cooling cycle on a mild day. That way I get a little bit longer dehumidification out of the system. In the intermediate trim speed, I just leave that alone. I have really good success without having to change that at all. So I just leave it. Scroll down a little bit here. Under the high speed, I give it a 3% or 5% deduct in CFM. So when it's 95 outside, the machine's loaded up and running. I drop my fan speed. I do a little bit better on my coil temperature, maybe 1 degree colder with this. I do a better job of dehumidification with a colder coil, and since my coil is super saturated, I've slowed my airspeed down, so that also helps me with my static pressure. Total system static is 0.5, so I need to stay underneath that. But that also allows the coil to be able to drain, and I don't blow moisture or suck moisture off of evaporator coil and put it back into the airstream. I find here in the southeast that boosting it in the low range, 5 to 6%, and then in the high range, cutting it 3 to 5% does an excellent job for controlling humidity. So after I get that setting there, we default the cooling profile D. That is the logarithm on how the blower ramps up and down. D is its default, and I recommend leaving it there. And I can change my delay on. I accidentally hit the screen. My delay on and my delay off in this section. I can also look here, max compressor revolutions per second. In this particular model, it's 54 revolutions per second. And then you can tweak it just a little bit. These two areas here, I don't recommend tweaking it unless you talk to your local field service rep. Because there's going to be some things that we need to check before we start playing with the compressor revolutions per second. I do have some units that run at 111 revolutions per second. So if we start playing around with this, we increase the velocity of the refrigerant too fast, and you can run the risk of slugging a compressor. But all the way down here at the bottom, I want to make sure that my dehumidification feature has been turned on. In this case, it has. So let's back out of cool settings. We can get into heat settings. And then I've got 3 more settings for a heat pump. So I got 3 for cooling and 3 for the heat pump. So then now I can tweak these settings if I need to be able to kind of get a certain type of temperature out the vent. I'm typically targeting 96 degrees or greater is what I want to see. Your skin temperature is roughly 86 degrees. Anything above 86 degrees is going to feel warm, and once we get above 96, 98 degrees, then it starts feeling really comfortable to us. So I can trim these, up to 15%, plus or minus in each one of these 3 ranges, just like I can with the cooling. Don't have to fool with this too much. This inverter does a great job heating and producing a lot of heat. But there are times if my customer is on blood thinners, things like that, and have been for a long time, then I might want to tweak these just a little bit to change my airspeed. I can also change my delay on, delay off, select my defrost interval to whatever I want it. In this case, I'm going to change it to 90 minutes. And then, again, in heating, I've got my max compressor revolutions per second, and I can tweak it just a little bit. There again, this is dangerous area here, and if you're not used to doing BTU calculations and then also checking safeties, I recommend not fooling with this at all. Just leave it right where it's at. Okay, under heat pump settings, I get a few other options. I've got auxiliary heater kit lockout. I can come in there and say never ever turn the electric heaters on above 30 degrees for supplemental heat, or I can drop it to 25 degrees. It's just really what is my customer's needs. Like again, if you've got someone with blood thinners on, there are times where they need that extra heat to feel warm. So it's all about comfort with the inverter, so I can dial the system in to give the customer what they need. Now, heat pump lockout, that's our compressor lockout. If I was doing dual fuel, that'll allow me to set the balance point of where I want it to switch from compressor over to a gas heat if I'm doing dual fuel. But in this case, I usually take it down to 0 here in the southeast, and because there's still good heat and this system's pretty efficient, down to 0 we can still grab a lot of heat out of the air with the system, no problem. Okay, that takes care of that section. Now let's back up so we can see the air handler. Now, under the air handler, I have to specify what kW heater is in this air handler. Because if we don't tell it how much kW is in it, it will never, ever, ever turn it on. So I can come over here, heat kit. I can come up here and select my kW. I've got it selected at 8. Let's change that to 10. I've got a 10 kW heater in there. And now I can have a electric heater trim if I need to trim it just a little bit. And my delay on and delay off there again. I usually leave the delay off at least 60 seconds after the thermostat satisfies. That's to cool the heat strips down and prevent them from overheating. Okay, the next step, I hit next step here. Now I need to hit the system run test. Now, all I have to do is select run test and then hit run test, and I'll get a little spinning dial over here. This test takes about 15-20 minutes to be able to run through. When you hit this run test, just let it run. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. That's why I'm not going to hit the button right now, because I'd have to pull the thermostat or kill the power to be able to stop this test. It'd have to run for 20 minutes. But it's going to check itself out. It's going to turn the fans on, the blowers, the compressor. It's going to run everything, then look at all the thermistors and pressure transducers to make sure everything's talking. And after about 15-20 minutes, the little spinning dial over here will stop. And then you know you're ready to move on to the next step. The next step would be charge mode. Now, if you're above 65 degrees ambient temperature and you've got a decent load on the indoor coil, you can run charge mode. When I run charge mode, I just come over here and hit run test. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes there again to speed the system up. This compressor never ever starts up loaded. It's always unloaded. The 20 SEER pulls about 3.42 amps to start the compressor. The 18 SEER is slightly lower, and then the Daikin Fit system or the Amana side discharge is going to be roughly in the 3 amp range as well. So this system pulls no amps to start the compressor, no light flicker inside the house when the unit's starting up. Now, you see the little spinning dial here. That tells me the test is running. I need to wait about 20 minutes and let this thing run so the EEV valves can open and close to move the right amount of liquid into the evaporator so the system can stabilize its suction superheat. Once the system stabilizes, then I can start looking at my subcooling number. The inverters have a specific target subcooling based on the size of the unit. Like a 3-ton heat pump condenser is 14 degrees plus or minus 1. So anywhere between 13 to 15 degrees, then you're in pretty good shape. And then if I finish up, this test will run for 60 minutes. So if I left it in there for the whole 60 minutes, it would stop on its own and end the test. But anytime after I get my subcooling set, I can come in here and hit stop test, and that ends it. If I had any other optional tests I want to run, I could test the cooling. I can turn the fan on and off, run the heat pump. I can go ahead and turn on the electric heaters, burn off any oils or anything like that that might have been on the heater kit from the factories. And if I ever need to pump the system down, I have to do it here. This is the only way to electronically bypass the low pressure transducer. And also, since there's no contactor on this board to energize the compressor, this allows me to electronically send a signal to start the compressor. So this is the only way to pump down the system is here. If you ever have to pump it down, do not close the liquid line until after the compressor is started. So those are your optional tests. Now if I've added equipment like a dehumidifier or a humidifier, it would give me the options to be able to test those as well. So as I'm testing things out, I might have created an error. If my errors are in white, it's a non-critical error. That means the machine saw something it didn't like, it made a correction and kept on going. If you have a critical error, then that critical error is going to be in a yellow letter, and that means the machine has shut down and we need to figure out what those are. But when you're done, just hit clear history, continue. Okay, no errors are found now, so we can back up out of this. Calibration. Now this is super important, calibrating the thermostat. This is best done at the very beginning before I try to run the system. This thermostat has an logarithm accounting for heat from the screen, and also down here there's a light bar that shines on the wall, either a blue color for cooling or a red color for heating. Now this thermostat needs to be powered up for 30 minutes without a heating or a cooling call. And then we can compare it, the calibration to a thermistor or temperature probe that we trust. So I can hit calibration. I can do a temperature offset or a humidity offset. But the key to properly calibrating this thermostat is having it off for 30 minutes, powered up, but no heating or cooling call for 30 minutes before you calibrate it. Other than that, I've got a status screen here. I can hit the heat pump, which is the outdoor unit here. It tells me what mode we're in. Do we have any critical or minor errors here? It'll tell me the requested demand for the compressor. And then CFM, it gives me a bunch of information. I'll get down here towards the bottom, and it'll give me some of the thermistor values that are on the liquid line, suction line, discharge pipeline, outdoor temperature, items like that. So it's got a bunch of thermistors monitoring the refrigerant temperature all through the system, so I'll be able to see all of these directly from the status screen here. Now I can't change anything in this section. This is a read only, so but it gives me a lot of great information without having to get temperature probes out or being able to hook up my gauges to the machine. I can come straight to the status screen and get a lot of information. Under air handler, there again, critical errors, minor errors, mode operation, it tells me it's on, it's in a steady state waiting for a command. There's no CFM being requested right now. I can get down here and see the thermistors and things that are inside the air handler, because we've got a couple thermistors and a pressure transducer and an EEV valve built inside the indoor air handler. So I get to see all of that information as well. So let's back out of this screen here. I come down here and hit next. So now we're in preferences under heat and cool. I get, it says min and max. Don't adjust this because it doesn't work like you're thinking. You can't come in here and set your heat to never heat above 78 degrees or never cool below 65. What it's going to do is limit what you can cool to and heat to. So I leave that alone. Your dead band, and that's your switch in between, if it's in auto mode, in between heat and cool. I can adjust that. No sulfur dehumidification, your overcool limit. I can overcool up to 3 degrees to drop the humidity in the house. Now this feature here, cooling boost mode, I can turn it off, turn it on, and I can have it activate at a certain outdoor temperature. It defaults to 105. I usually bring it down to about 95 degrees. What this does, when the ambient temperature sensor on the inlet side of the condenser coil reaches 95 degrees, the compressor is allowed to speed up and deliver roughly an extra 3,000 BTUs of cooling. So it holds a little bit back in reserve above its rated capacity, waiting on that hottest day. So it's able to deliver a little extra cooling there. So that's a pretty little neat feature right there. And then house settings. I need to be able to tell here, is the condenser higher than the indoor unit, lower than the indoor unit, or at the same level. This system has an oil return mode in it. Every so often it'll slow the fan speed down. It's bumping liquid through the system to be able to grab pockets of oil in the seal system and return it back to the accumulator so it can feed it back to the compressor. Telling how the compressor is sitting in relationship to the indoor air handler changes that logarithm and how it's going to work. Okay, other than that, you can set dealer information. That's where you can put in name, phone number, email, websites, that type of thing. So if there is a problem, it pops it up on the screen, tells the homeowner who to call. And then reminders, those are like filters and pads and things like that. You know, whatever you've got hooked up to the system. Then I can hit next step. Now, to get out of the program section of this thermostat, you have to hit complete setup or you'll never get out of it. So if you hit complete setup, we hit continue. Now it asks the only stupid question I've ever seen in my life. Do I want to return to small fonts? And the answer is no. Even with large fonts, they're too small if you got fat fingers. And it makes it so much easier to read because they're going to be a bolder letter and they're going to be a little bit larger font. So I recommend leaving them at the normal, don't go back to normal font size, use the large font. So I just hit continue. It saved all of my changes. Now I'm back to the home screen. To be able to give it a heating or cooling call, I can come in here, just say I want cooling. I got the little snowflake lit up here. I back up and I can come in here, grab that little dial, run it down, turn it on cooling, and down here when it turns on you get a little blue light bar down here in the bottom. So it has a little blue glow on the screen. Let me see if I can turn the light off here. And as you can see here, you got a little blue glow underneath the thermostat. But for the most part, that covers all of the setup of the thermostat, the commissioning of it, the run test, charge mode. That takes care of all of that. So at this point, you're ready to give it a heating or cooling call. Hand the keys over to the homeowner and explain the operation of the thermostat. If you like these videos, hit the like, the big thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel so you see all the future videos. And if there's any comments, leave them in the comment section. I will answer the comments. And if there's any type of video that you'd like to see in the future, shoot me a line and I'll see if I can't put something together and post a video on that. Appreciate you watching.